Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Evelyn. Let's talk about what we did yesterday. Yesterday, we looked at plant and animal cells underneath a microscope because remember, plant and animal cells are only microscopic. We can only see those through our eyes. Like this right here is my skin. I can't see cells because you can only see them through a microscope. So, remember that cells are the basic building blocks of life and they keep us alive. And the cell parts have many functions. Now, we learned about the plant animal cell and how they're different, and also how they were microscopic. But today, you guys are going to look at an animal cell with food, and the food kind of goes in place with the cell parts. So I will show you what I have. And if you guys can see it, I'm going to work with my camera a little bit, but that is an animal cell. And this right here, I cut my cell in half. I know it's an animal cell because remember that it has a round shape like this. Now, this red part of my cell is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance in a cell that helps keep the parts of the cell in place. Because if I jump into a pool of jello, I'm going to get stuck. I'm not going to go anywhere. That's the purpose of cytoplasm in a cell. It helps keep all the cell parts in place. That's why it's like jello because it'll get stuck. Now, you can do this as well at home. If you have Jello, I just put like a cup of Jello that you buy in a package and I cut it in half with a spoon, a plastic spoon. Now this right here is an M&M, a yellow M&M, but it represents something else for our animal cell. This represents the nucleus of our cell. Now the nucleus of a cell is the most important part because it's like the brain of a cell. It controls the cell and tells the cell parts what to do. So this is very important. Just like our brain, the nucleus of the cell is the control center or the brain of the cell. So I'm going to put it right in the middle of my cell and I'm going to squish it in there. That way it won't move. So if I do like this to my cell and I move it around, that nucleus is stuck. It's not going anywhere because of the cytoplasm. And you can tell the cytoplasm takes up most of my animal cell because it has to keep all the cell parts in place. So I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Remember, I cut my cell in half so you all could see it. I'm going to put it back on there. Now, this is my animal cell and it's complete. Does anybody remember what's on the outside of my animal cell? If you remember, that's called our cell membrane of the animal cell. The cell membrane is important because it lets the good stuff in the cell and it lets the bad stuff out. So the cell membrane protects the cell. It's on the outside. Now, it's not a cell wall, that's different. Only plant cells have cell walls. So here is my animal cell model that you could do at home as well. And what you're going to do when you guys are finished watching this video. Oh, my animal cell fell apart. We're going to put that back on there. That way you can see it. What you're going to do is you have a Google form that you guys are going to answer. There's 10 multiple choice questions, and we have went over most of the questions that are on there. Let me wipe my hands that way I could see. Um, so you're gonna, hold on, I'll do this very carefully. So what part of the cell makes up the most important part of the cell? You're gonna answer that, and your cell may fall apart, but that's okay. So that's one of the questions, and we've already answered that together. And what's the center or the control center of your cell? We've already talked about that. Remember, that's the most important part of the cell. There's also a question, why do you think there's so much cytoplasm in a cell? What does the cytoplasm do? So you think about it. This was the cytoplasm right here. And what's its purpose? Remember, the nucleus is in there in my cytoplasm and it's stuck. Remember that. Also, you're going to have a question. How does this model help you to better understand cells? And we talked about cells yesterday, and how scientists study cells. Um, and they want to learn how cells work, and they want to know about diseases and how the cells work together. So that's important. And looking at this model, I can look and see how each part of the cell, how it works. So it helps me to better understand the animal cell. Um, Also, there will be two questions about naming or choosing answers that have cells in them. And another question is asking you which answer does not have cells in them. So we made a model out of Jello and other food, and you can do this at home. Remember, this is an animal cell because it's round. This is the cytoplasm and it's broken half. And this was my nucleus in the center of the cell, and that's the control center of the cell. That's the brain of the cell. That's the most important part of the cell. And my cytoplasm, remember, the cell parts get stuck in them because it's jelly-like material. If you jump in a pool of jello, you're not going to move because you're going to get stuck. Okay? Also, the cell membrane is on the outside because it lets the good stuff in and it wants to keep the bad stuff out. So, I hope you can do this experiment at home just like I did. And after this video, you're going to you're going to do your Google Form quiz that goes along with your cell. All right, guys, that's the end of our lesson. Today you learned we made a model of an animal cell, and you learned the parts of the cell, and you also used the model to help you better understand animal cells. If you have any questions, let us know. Bye, guys.